And we welcome you into another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show on just an awful day here in Happy Valley, dear Goon. We're suffering through below 50-degree temperature, sunshine out there, hard to
Horrible.
see,
It's horrible.
too bright.
Horrible, horrible, horrible.
I presume you had a good Super Bowl weekend despite the outcome of the
Correct.
game itself.
It was a fantastic week down there in the Bahamas with a bunch of friends and stuff like that. And I'm sure we'll get into it. I mean, it hurt, but, the curse of Ironhead continues.
Yes, it does. Yes, it
So
does.
I have a couple predictions that you need to make.
Yes.
Iowa is going to win a national title in the next 10 years. Wrestling.
Yeah, I mean,
Baltimore
listen,
Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals.
I obviously like Penn State and cover Penn State, but I don't really see how the Nittany Lions overcome.
They will not win a national title for the next 10 years.
No,
Nope, none,
not
zero.
with the strength of that Iowa team.
That's so funny.
Not this year anyway. Yeah, I really did think that at halftime I felt really good about where I was at with my prediction because I did think it was the offensive line of Philadelphia that was the difference to me in that game in the first half. There's a bunch of different things that we can get into on the game itself, and we will. I think for fans that were just tuning in that aren't Chiefs or Eagles fans, such as myself, it was a thoroughly entertaining game.
Very good.
It wasn't like Cardinals Steelers good, but I mean, it was a really good Super Bowl matchup, man.
It was. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So I have to get this off my chest.
Yeah.
So I'm down there in the Bahamas with my buddies, and one guy's son plays at Michigan. And he told us a day or two before the game, he said that field surface sucks. His kid played on it against TCU against Michigan. He said they could not figure the shoes out. Some were going high studs, some were going back to the mold, some were doing this, the shorter studs. They couldn't figure it out. And he said this 2 days before the game, and he was like, so you look at it. And then, I don't know if I've ever said this on the air before, but at the Rose Bowl, when I played there many, many, many moons ago, there was a spot on that field. If we were on 2 plays later, I'm pulling around and I slipped in the same spot. And I've seen it happen year after year after year. And then this year, there was a huge fumble on the play in that position. A guy slipped and something happened. And I remember I was watching the game here at the Loop when I came out, and everybody's looking at me like, did you just see that? The guy slipped exactly where you said he was going to slip. So, I mean, players know about that type of stuff. But, I mean, this is a kid who played there
it has something to do
January.
with that particular spot with the Rose Bowl has something to do with the sprinkler system.
I think
right?
so. I would think that there must be a leaking sprinkler head there that they can't get it. Yeah. But it's been since '95. Yeah. It is what it is. But, that turf, and then the NFL coming out and saying that they spent $800,000 to update that turf. I think it was a brand new turf, but I don't know what's going on out there with it. They painted it green, and it was this stuff, and it's the same style of grass that the Eagles have at home, and a lot of teams have at home. But I mean, I'm not going to blame it. You're never going to blame it. But we said before the game that the Eagles' offensive line and the Eagles' defensive line controlled that game. The Eagles' D line did not come through at all. 0 sacks on Mahomes whatsoever. He had some pressure, yes, here and there, but that's the way he plays, and that's how he plays better. But the defensive line, their first complaint was, they could not get off the line of scrimmage, couldn't get off the ball with the slipping.
Yeah.
Hassan Reddick, who was by far the best Eagles D lineman in a very good year for D lineman, said, he could not get that first step, and he was slipping all over. He said it was an embarrassment, and he could not believe the NFL should be embarrassed by it, how bad that surface was to play on. With that said, there's no excuse. You can point to about 15 different things in that game, as in every football game.
Yeah.
There's 15 different things that could have changed the outcome of that game, and it just worked out for Kansas City. And you got to give Kansas City a lot of credit; they won the game. I don't think the Eagles lost that game. It's tough to swallow being up 10 at half, and so you think the Eagles are up 14-7 and driving, and Hurts fumbles that ball, and they run it in for a touchdown. So it's now 14-14. Maybe a whole different game at 21-7.
For sure.
So tons of stuff going in there. The late kick return, punt return, that hurt a lot. Put them right in the field goal range, right in the
Yep.
touchdown. And then defensively, they got Andy Reid. I'm a Andy Reid usually chokes in a lot of big games. He did a lot of times for the Eagles, and he had the one big win in his career, and that was to win the Super Bowl. What 3-4 years ago, and he coached an absolutely amazing game this week.
He did. I will say it felt to me, again, just trying to kind of
Sure.
objectively observe it. I thought, I actually thought Sirianni did the better job of being aggressive. That whole thing with the field goal attempt and the fact that it doinked off obviously hurts even more if you're a Chiefs fan in the moment.
Yep.
But I thought one of the things that actually, I guess you could argue that both teams did was stay true to themselves, and it's one of the things. Um, I think that the best teams in any sport and best individuals, they don't change up what it is that has made them successful, right? Like you don't get to the big game by going for it on fourth down more than any team in the history
Yeah.
of the NFL, and then on fourth and short decide, well, this is the Super Bowl, right? And Sirianni didn't. He went for it and it paid
Yep.
off, right? And I think Andy Reid, through most of his career, has been a little more conservative, more traditional with the approach.
Correct.
And I think he was true to himself and what they do. It felt to me again at halftime. I'm like,
Yep.
yep, that approach, Sirianni's approach, is what's going to
Yep.
allow them to win this game, along with the fact that they have just an amazing offensive line.
And what they were doing was they were letting the players know on third down, we're going to go for this on fourth down by running
No
the
question.
ball on like a third down and
Yeah.
7. They would, you're telling your offensive line and your offense like,
Yes.
hey, we're going for this,
Yeah.
and that changes the whole complexion. I always say it's the Bill O'Brien syndrome. When you know you're going to go for it on fourth down, and the defensive coach knows for it, you're going to go on fourth down, and on third down, it changes the whole complexity of it.
No
You're not going to have a
question.
nickel package in there. You still have to play like second down defense, and it's an aggressive approach, but it changes how coaches have to coach against it.
Yeah, I know that, and there were just so many interesting little dynamics in the game. For as great, and I'll contradict myself here a little bit, but for as great as that Eagles offensive line is and was, they could not get Miles Sanders going in that
Oof,
first half,
ever.
and as you said, the fumble obviously was a huge play that really kind of kept Kansas City in it
Correct.
going into the second half. Um, at the end of the day, I do think you have to give, and there are a lot of things that played into it. I do think it was a bad call, but to me, it was not an egregious call in that I can see, I really can see why the official, I mean, you're looking at that
Yep.
live time,
Yep.
you see the hand.
It looks like he spun him.
Yeah, I mean, that is a hard call or non-call to make. I don't think it was egregious, and I don't think you know it's indicative that the NFL is fixed as
Yep.
as some like
Yep.
to conspire. But I mean, it was a bad call at the end of the day.
As a player, you want to that first quarter should be called the same as the fourth quarter. It's like we talk
Yes.
about constantly about the baseball pitchers is if it's a high strike, players know it's a high strike. You can't change it to not giving somebody a high strike or an inside pitch or a
Well,
low
let's go
ball.
back to what I was saying with the teams. Be true to yourself.
Yep.
If you're an official that calls the pass
Yep.
interference tight, call it tight.
Call it all game because they
Correct.
didn't.
Call it the way you've called it all
The
game and all season.
players played a different game
Yep.
for three and a half, 3 7/8
I agree
of the
with you.
game, and it's the same thing that happened last year with the Rams and the Bengals. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember sitting down there watching the game back in last year and saying, "This has been a great game. They're letting these guys play. Let the players decide the title." And if you remember last year's Super Bowl, the referee made like they made like 6 calls in the last drive, the last
Yep.
like 4 minutes of that game. And it was like, dude, you swallowed your whistles all game and let the guys play. Now you're changing what they can and can't do. And I didn't appreciate that. It's like the referees are now inserting themselves into it. If you're going to do that, start from play one. The players appreciate that more, even as fans. It's a level playing field. If you're
Yeah.
going to call it from the start to the finish, do it. You can't pick and choose because the players can't adapt to it. And that's all you ask for as a player, a coach, or whatever, a
Yep.
fan. I mean, if you're going to call it the whole game. You can't just pick and choose. And that's why I think people are upset. But yes, it was a hold. There was jersey pulled. I mean, he twisted him around. And what that referee has to look at is he has to look at his waist and his shoulders. And then when he hit his waist, his shoulders got turned. That's going to be a hold. Like I tell you, when there's a weird block, when there's a referee is looking at how the player falls, if they're going to call a clip.
Yep.
If he falls on his back, it's not a clip. He got him in the front. If he falls on his side, that's definitely a clip. And that's what they're looking at. They're looking for the hips and the shoulders getting spun around and twisted around. And they're going to throw the penalty on it.
Yeah.
So, again, just do it the whole game. Again, I'm not going to
I,
complain and say that was the end of the game because they still had to do a lot of other stuff.
yeah.
You got to love the guy from the Chiefs. He could have scored a Super Bowl touchdown. Could have scored
That's
one.
it.
And he just went down on the knee at the 1 yard line. That was the end. I mean, that was the end of it. With that
Yeah.
said, by the way,
I
I have to say, before I forget, because Olsen was calling at that whole drive. He did a hell of a job. He
yeah.
was amazing.
He really is. He is a terrific analyst. I know Tony Romo is getting a lot of fire this year. I still think Romo is really good, but I do think right now
Yep.
that Olsen is the best. It is amazing his ability to diagnose what's happening and to be
Everything.
able to and to be able to succinctly tell you things that you as an average fan would not be picking up. He really is. He is a phenomenal talent.
Yeah.
He just
I
has a
personally
great
think that
knack
the
for it.
game has passed Romo by from when he was a player. My personal opinion. But the long or pretty long. Olsen he's only 2 years out, so he's still fresh in the game, so he understands it. But I mean, that was two All-Pro tight ends playing against each other this past Saturday or Sunday
Yep.
in Goddard and in Kelsey. And what better guy to be talking about that type of play than him? But he was fantastic about how he was calling timeouts. He was doing this and doing that. And he was analyzing it, and you're like, dude, you were a tight end.
No,
Like I,
he does. He
honest to God,
has.
I am really looking forward to hearing Tom Brady next year, just because I want to see how his mind works. I was
Yeah,
very
I'm
impressed when Romo
curious.
came out because he they said, "Oh, here comes this, here comes that," because he was still fresh into the game. He
Yeah,
knew it,
yeah,
and I really want to see how Brady thinks the game. Now, again, if you could be a great player, but you might not be a great broadcaster. We don't know, but I'm very interested to see how he thinks about the game and how his mind processes the game.
yeah. I mean, we saw it with Montana. I think Brady will be good. I don't know. Greg Olson
He's really good.
is an exceptional talent. I mean, he really is. Uh, and we'll see. I mean, yeah, we have to see with Brady. I do think Brady will be good in the broadcast booth. He just those Jim Gray interviews that he does during the Monday night games or has done on the radio broadcast of those Monday night games. There's some really good stuff that
Really?
he offers in there in terms of insight. Obviously, guarded with exactly what he's going to be giving you. But I do think he'll be good. I just don't know that he's, they're launching him right into he's going to be the
It's
A team.
crazy.
And I don't know when you have somebody that is as good as Olson is that you displace him until you
Yep.
see how things progress. And again, Brady may end up being absolutely terrific, but he may be awful at that.
Yep.
I think he'll be a good broadcaster, but it may be, he's better as a studio host. I have no idea. I mean, I'm not predicting anything
Yeah.
one way or the other. It's just we don't know because we've never seen it yet. With Olson that
It's good.
man, he is.
He's
I
very
actually
good.
I thought the broadcast team was really really good and really on point in Sunday's game. And the halftime show was funny because Marissa's like, she's pregnant. I'm like, no, she just had a baby. I thought she had a baby just a couple months ago.
She
She
did.
ended up looking it up. No, it was back in May. I thought it was like 3 months ago. I'd seen an interview with Rihanna, and the way she was talking made me think that it was really recent. And no, it was back in May, and she is pregnant again. And
Oh, it has come
Marissa's,
out.
oh yeah,
Oh, okay.
okay, yeah, yeah. But Marissa's like, as soon as she saw her, she's like, oh, she's pregnant. I'm like, no, 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 she just had a baby. And Marissa's like, I don't. I'm like, no, she did. She just had a baby. And then she looked it up. She's like, that was back in May. And she goes, I'm telling you, like the way she's rubbing her belly, like that's a message. And also, look at her. She's pregnant. I'm like, I don't think so. I think it's just. And the next morning, he's like, yeah, Rihanna's pregnant again. It's like,
Well,
okay,
there you go.
yeah, women know these things. Should never doubt.
True.
Never question. Um, yeah, I thought the commercials were good for the most part. I thought there was
I wasn't into them. I
some,
didn't.
some
I mean, I
some funny ones.
we were in a louder
Yeah, yeah,
environment, so I really couldn't get into them. So I will. They're on YouTube or whatever. You can watch them all. The best of the commercials and stuff like that.
yeah.
That's the stuff. I mean, we're watching the NFL Network, and they're just showing like player celebrations with their family on the field. I love that the best.
No,
That really is good.
it is.
Did you hear the Kelsey brothers their conversation?
I on the field. You mean
F
after?
you, congratulations.
Yeah,
That's what Jason said to Travis. F you, congratulations. That's
yeah,
perfect. That's how brothers talk to each other when it comes
yeah.
down to stuff like that. So, uh, yeah, I mean, it's gonna go down. I mean, I'm sucks that I was rooting for the team that was on the tail end of it, on the losing side of this. But what a great game! I mean, absolutely everything about it was fantastic. I
It
mean,
really
the
was. It
comeback,
was.
the comeback late in the game. I mean, Jalen Hurts is an absolute stud. I mean, 4 touchdowns, 35 points. That 2 point conversion when he needed it. I mean,
Yep.
you could have a Sherman tank in front of him, and he was going to make that 2 year. He was going to get in that end zone for those 2 points. Just an absolute stud. I mean, I'm so excited for his future. Now, with that said, I know they talked about Mahomes' ankle the whole week, and they talked about Hurts' shoulder a little bit and this and that, but you could tell at the end of that game when he threw that bomb,
Yep.
the game ending Hail Mary that didn't even make the 20-yard line. I mean, you could tell how screwed up his shoulder was at that point.
Yeah.
Uh, to the
Uh,
point where I actually looked at somebody and I said, I mean, they had to have known that. Why wouldn't they put Gardner Minshew in there for a play? He had to have a stronger arm. I mean,
yeah.
geez, I don't know, man. I mean, that looked
Yeah.
scary.
That's.
How bad that looked. Uh, I mean, he threw that ball 30 or 40 yards tops. I mean, Ironhead may have had that in him
Maybe
back in the day.
back in the
Absolutely,
day for sure.
absolutely. So
Maybe today.
I just it was a great part of a great game to watch. I look forward to. I DVR it every year, and I'll watch it again. And just you're going to pick up 40 different things when you watch it again of what could have gone different and
Yeah.
uh, what the Chiefs again. They won the game. They did not get stopped.
I
Eric
agree.
Bieniemy and Andy Reid
Yep.
deserve a lot of credit. Their defensive coordinator deserves a lot of credit. He was on his heels late in that second quarter. I mean, again, you take away that fumble and the Eagles go down and score in that drive. Even if they score, they're up 10. But no, boom, all of a sudden it's a tie game, and it kept the Chiefs in a little bit because they could have gone down 17 or 24 at half. That's a lot, man. That would be an absolute lot.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see because it feels like both of these teams, right, are built for long term success. Uh, but Mahomes was really interesting to listen to after the game. He's like, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping I get to a bunch more, but like it is hard to get there, man.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of
Well,
really good teams, really good quarterbacks, really good coaches. And, there's a difference between being built and even having success and getting back to Super Bowl after Super Bowl, right? I mean, it's what made what Tom Brady and the Patriots did so remarkable
still astounding.
for so long. Yeah. And, there are people saying, and it could be, I mean, the Chiefs could be on that type of trajectory here uh, with Mahomes and with Reid as their coach, or it could come to a screeching halt next season. I mean, you don't know. We'll see how it plays out, but it's not. I don't think the Chiefs are going anywhere, but I also don't think the Bengals are going anywhere for
Bills
quite
aren't.
a while. I don't think the Bills are going anywhere, and I also think you have the Dolphins are rising up. I think the Steelers probably a couple of years away from being serious
Yeah,
contenders for the
Chargers are going to
Super
be good.
Bowl. But yeah, and I think Ravens, if they can keep Lamar healthy, that's still an organization and a team that I think can do some damage. And I think the Patriots are getting better and better. We'll see whether or not they can get into that echelon or not.
Sure.
And in the NFC, again, a lot of things have to play out. We'll see. It does feel to me right now like Philadelphia is going to be the team that you have to dethrone. Obviously, the 49ers
Yep.
are going to be very good, but we'll see exactly how that quarterback situation plays out. And, there's some uncertainty there in terms of how that's going to. You can have a great talent at quarterback, but sometimes it just doesn't mix. And I'm not predicting either way, but you don't know right now with certainty. But that 49ers defense, and again, I think that that organization is also going to be around for a while. And again, every year there's teams that
I mean,
surprise, and there are teams, again, either the Chiefs or the Eagles. I mean, it is possible, as we sit here today, that one of them or even both of them will have disappointing seasons next year. Injuries play,
sure.
a role too. There's just all kinds of things that come into
Ton
it.
of stuff. I mean, you go
Yeah,
back to the rookie. That's the rookie contract stuff. I mean, Jalen Hurts is an absolute bargain right now for the Eagles,
no
but
question.
he's got to get paid now. So you're going to take a $5 million contract. It's going to turn into $30 million. You need to find $30 million in your team and get rid of it to keep just to pay your quarterback.
Yeah,
I mean, that's astounding to me that that's the way it is, and that's the issue that these teams are going to run into, and that's you want a rookie contract guy because it's a bare bottom and you can load up your receivers and your O line and your D line and your defensive backs. But go back to we've talked about it with Russell Wilson in Seattle. And then that should have been the next dynasty. But
yeah,
Russell Wilson gets the big contract, and you can't afford to pay all your D tackles and your Richard Sherman at a corner, and you can't afford to get a big wide receiver. Uh, that's why the draft is so important. That's why
Mhm.
draft capital is so important with making good picks at wide receiver, and you can have those guys for 3 or 4 years before you have to start paying them millions. I mean, what are the Giants going to do? They're going to have to pay Saquon. You know, he's been on a rookie contract. He's getting a lot of money, but he's going to be expected more. So I believe that the Eagles have seen the last plays of Miles Sanders as an Eagle, in my opinion. I mean, they're
Right.
just not. They're just not set. That's not their thing. Is to pay any kind of running back top dollar.
Yeah.
They'll draft somebody before they would pay Miles that kind of money.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's funny how the cap works, but that is in essence how the cap works. So we're going to see what Herbert does out with the Chargers. We're going to see what Joey Burrow because they're going to start getting paid. But when you start getting paid, you have to take some of their quality players around them away, and you better draft well for them. Now the Eagles have done very well with the draft. I mean, they have 2 first-round picks this year. One is a 10, and obviously 31. So you could pick up 2 stars right then and there. I mean, I saw a prediction today that the Eagles might trade the 10th pick, get back to about 20 or 25, and pick up that running back from Texas, Bolel, whoever. And I was like, that would be. You don't want to waste the top 15 pick on a running back. I think that would be a perfect projection for him and would be a great 4 or 5 year player.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean? I
that's
mean,
and that's you're exactly right. I mean that
that's how the
is
Eagles. That's what Howie Roseman is known for. That's
well,
how he's built these 2 teams in 5 years.
yeah, and it is part of the equation that all of these teams now have
Yes.
to take into account is all right. How do we best utilize
Yep.
the resources that are
I
available
mean,
to
you just think
us?
about. I mean, how many times have the Green Bay Packers been held hostage by their quarterbacks? I mean,
Yeah,
I won't talk about
that's
it, but Aaron
it's
Rodgers saying he needs to go to a dark room for 4 days and figure out his future. What does that mean, dude? Like, first of all, you took $51 million of the team's cap money. So, what are you thinking? They're not going to be able to replace that type of money. It's that's what I say. We go back to what we talk about all the time, Jeffrey, and that is there should be 2 salary caps. You should have a quarterback salary cap. If you have a tier 1 quarterback, you pay this much money, then you have you're not getting charged in the back end too much.
Yeah.
But if you're using a rookie quarterback, you should get more money on the back end of it. Because him taking $51 million of $185 million, it's wrong, and you're not going to be able to have a competitive team with that. I mean, you're going
Yeah.
to have a bunch of rookies around him, and he's going to act like a petulant child when they mess up. So it's interesting how that all works. It really, really is. So we're going to see how these teams, how are the Chiefs going to keep all their star players and how the Eagles going to keep all their guys. My personal opinion, I think Fletcher Cox is going to retire or be gone. I think Jason Kelsey is going to be gone. So that in itself is the money you're going to need to pay Jalen Hurts. But now you got to replace Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox with their contracts. I mean,
Yeah.
you better go into the draft and you better get some absolute home run hitters. And I think that he did that last year with getting the Georgia D tackle, Jordan Davis, to replace Fletcher Cox. I mean, Davis, I think he played 11 plays the other night.
Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, the Eagles D line was silent, just absolutely silent. I mean,
Yeah, I mean Kansas City. I keep raving about Philadelphia's O line, and
Kansas City, they gave the
rightfully
ball,
so. But
man.
yeah, Kansas City has a pretty
I mean,
doggone good offensive line of its own.
Cincinnati's D line too.
Yeah,
So the
no,
Eagles can
they.
complain about the turf all they want and not be able to get the ball because the
Yeah,
Bengals have just as good a D line and they didn't do anything against them.
no, yeah, Kansas City's offensive line is also
Great
outstanding.
job.
I mean,
And you got to take into account how good their tight ends block. Dallas Goddard and Travis Kelsey are both savage blockers.
yeah.
I mean, you can't. You got to take that into account when you talk about offensive line. They're really good.
Let's pivot to some Penn State sports
Yeah, buddy.
for a bit. Tough stretch here
Congratulations.
for well, yeah. Let's start with Penn State basketball. Tough stretch here for uh, the Nittany Lions, and I don't know, Goon. I think they're getting worn down a little bit right now, and I think it has to do more with the size of their opponents in the conference in particular than it does necessarily with minutes and all of that. But I just, um, I think teams have kind of figured out how to solve Penn State. And it's not to say that the Lions can't go on a run here because again, if you're hot with your outside shooting, but the defense late in games is becoming a real issue here for Penn State, and I don't think it's an effort thing. I think it's they're just not able to sustain for 40 minutes.
Penn State, I mean, Big Ten basketball is turning into Big Ten football. It's like you got to bring your heart out because you're going to have a good.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long 3 months playing week in and week out and twice a week against Big Ten opponents because everybody's big and they're strong and they're quick and they can beat you in different ways. And I think Illinois coming in tonight to BJC. Illinois is not happy with Penn State because they beat them last time. And Penn State got super hot shooting 3-pointers.
Yep.
So Illinois, this is a big game for them. They're playing hot right now.
Yeah,
I was with a bunch of Illinois people this weekend, so that's all I heard about.
Well, and one of the problems right now, well, I don't know about. I mean, one of the things that Penn State is battling through right now, trying to battle through, is we keep looking at it from the Penn State side. It's like, oh, this is almost a must-win game. They need to get this. Problem is, you're looking across the court, and in most of this stretch, it's like, well, yeah, but that team really needs it too. Like, I mean, you've got a lot of teams jockeying here, and Penn State's just coming out on the short end. I also think they're playing. I think Maryland's playing some of its best basketball of the season right now. I think Illinois, they're catching an Illinois team that I think is playing probably as well as it has all season right now. And it's just, we talk about it all the time, and it sounds like an overstatement, but it just is really hard to dig yourself out of a hole in the Big Ten, right? Like, because you just don't get those. Like in Big Ten football, as challenging as it is, there are games on the schedule where if you're in the upper echelon of the conference, I'm not going to say you can, not be dialed in, but that, okay, if we come out and play the way we're capable of, we can have this thing in hand at halftime. You just don't have that in the Big Ten. I mean, witness Purdue and Northwestern. I mean, you just don't
There's
get
another
a
hot team.
rollover. I mean, but you look at the bottom of the conference. I mean, Ohio State is not a
Yeah, I
pushover
know it's crazy, right?
team, right? Like, I mean, so
Every game is a
yeah,
it's a
and so for
battle.
Penn State, it feels like things are kind of snowballing the wrong way here, and you keep wanting to say, okay, well, this is where they can stem the tide, and they could in any of these games, but there's not a game that you're looking at. And you're certainly like, okay, well, at least they can get a win and maybe get back on track. You're like looking at it, it's like, oh man, this is just really hard. And Penn State obviously right now is on the outside, and they're starting to get further outside. Looking in when it comes to the NCAA tournament, they're going to need a heck of a stretch run and a heck of a Big Ten tournament
Yeah.
right now to get in. And I just, again, I'm hoping the wheels don't come off, but I don't now foresee this team being able to do enough down the stretch to get into the NCAA tournament this season.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. They needed a couple things to happen, and they had to do a few things, and they all fell through last week. So,
Yeah, I mean, you had to get. Well, we kept talking about it. You had to hold serve at home. They didn't do
correct.
that. You had to get somewhere along the way, and they still could get a big win, or now you probably need a couple of big wins on the road and hold serve the rest of the way at home, and probably still need a
Yeah,
couple of
first,
tournament wins.
look at it now and let's say, hey, we got to get that first day by for the Big Ten tournament. That's what you got to play for right now. Because again, we go back to they can beat anybody if they're hot shooting 3-pointers.
Yeah,
Anybody. That's how they beat Illinois last time.
yeah,
I mean, they could do it again tonight. We don't know. We don't know what team's going to show up, and you live and die by it. And it sucks as a fan and as a fan of the program, and even as a player of the program. I'm sure. But it's they can go in. You're not playing 4 straight days, and you get that first day game by. I mean, you can win that first game, and you can make some waves in that tournament.
yeah,
And that's the only way that they're going to get in. But they have to again from here on out do very very well. Last week was very well, but now we're very very well.
yeah.
And then it starts tonight. I mean, this they can get it going tonight and get hot at the end of the season. That would be great. But we just said, and we both agree that they are running out of gas. It just seems that's like what's
Yeah,
going
and
on.
again, to me, this is kind of a last stand type of situation tonight, where uh, you need this win to keep any semblance of hope for the NCAA
Yep.
tournament alive,
A
right?
lot of
Like,
lot of second half fail this year with that team. I mean, you
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah, and really, it's been just down the stretch, and I think it's been more so. I mean, I guess it's both ends of the court, but to me, the defense is what's really let them down here. Uh, in this most recent run of what are 4 losses in a row now,
Yeah.
and it's just uh, they're just not getting the stops when they need them to keep themselves to give themselves a chance and keep themselves in these games. And again, you're getting pretty close here to desperation mode
Yep.
for Penn State, and I think realistically any hope of the NCAA tournament, and I'm not sure how much there realistically is right now. But to keep any hope alive, I mean, this is just an absolute must win. And as we're saying, I think it's a tall order even at home here
I agree,
tonight.
but it is last stand time, and we're watching NFL Network. And I apologize. Aaron Rodgers is going to make $58.3 million next year, so he's taking even more money out of the
Yeah,
salary cap for them. So, I mean, if I'm a Packers fan, I'm saying move on, go. And I just saw that Derek Carr got his release from the Raiders. Nothing
yeah.
surprising there, but
No,
all right, Jeff, I'm not an idiot. You're not an idiot, but what
well,
idiot in the NFL would try to trade for him knowing that they were going to release him? Like,
and that's
other than having first dibs at him?
that's why they.
I don't understand. I
Yeah,
mean,
and I
why?
don't think. Yeah, I agreed, and
But you know
that's
he's going to get released, so why would you use any kind of capital or any kind of trade bait
no.
to try and lure him to your
Why
team
nobody did.
when he gets released? I know it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, do the Raiders really think that somebody? I mean, it is
Well,
the
I mean, you've
Raiders.
got to try,
It
right?
is
I
the
mean,
Raiders. I get it.
well, yeah, but I mean,
Now, the only thing is, if the Saints really
you hope
wanted him, they
somebody,
would trade for him. But it might cost them a seventh round pick. But you know,
Yeah.
but that you could wait until he's released and then go after him. Maybe he doesn't want to play. Maybe he wanted to pick who he was going to play for, type of thing. So I don't know. I the NFL is a weird animal, man. It really
Yeah.
is, and that's the one we follow and understand. I mean, we don't understand baseball or basketball or hockey.
Yeah. Real quickly on LeBron James becoming the all-time scoring leader in the NBA. This will be as much NBA talk on this show
Huh?
as we've had probably all totaled in all the years
Yep.
we've been doing it. But um, I, how do you assess LeBron, or how do you think of him in terms of an all-time great?
He is an all-time great. There's no doubt about that. I mean, the man is absolutely, for what he does with his size and how he plays the game, and it's amazing. It really, truly, truly is amazing. And he's never going to be Michael Jordan in our eyes. When we grew up idolizing Michael Jordan, I mean, honest to God, did you not get goosebumps when that Air Jordan Curver,
Yeah,
with that Matt Damon movie coming
yeah,
out at the Super Bowl? I was like,
the,
oh my God, I even wanted to see it. I have not
yeah,
said I can't wait to go see that movie at least 4 or 5 years. And I said to Johnny, my buddy Johnny, I was like, dude, I can't wait to go see that movie.
yeah,
So, is he that type of guy? No, because I don't watch the NBA anymore because I don't like how the NBA is,
yeah.
how it is. But he is by far and away amazing. But what gets him is talking off the court and talking about a lot of stuff that he doesn't really have a comprehension of, but he have figured he has to make a statement on it. And I just don't. I mean, like I said to somebody the other day, I mean, you can say it to you too. So from now until the day we die, Jeffrey, we're going to have to hear LeBron James's opinion on everything in sports, out of sports.
Yeah.
Whether he likes Coke or Diet Pepsi or Pepsi, the Coke Challenge or whatever, whatnot. So we're going to have to hear that the rest of our lives. Now, he's earned that respect and earned that right. Yeah, if he's the all-time leader scorer in the history of basketball, more power to him. He played a long time, but so did Jabbar.
Yeah, no question. And the amazing thing with the scoring title is I still don't think that's what he's best known for, right? Like he's known as being a playmaker and somebody that will score if you need him to,
Yeah,
but he's perfectly content. And it's people knocked him for it early in his career. Some probably still knock him for it, but
right.
he's just as happy to
Yeah,
to
he don't want the
pass
ball
it
late
up.
late in the game. He'd rather
Right.
give an assist to somebody who's going to score it.
Well, I think
Or
he wants to get the easiest bucket he can.
yeah, he
And
wants to be
if that's him, I mean, I don't think it's that he's necessarily
correct.
shying away from taking the shot, but if he's drawing all the attention and somebody else has an easier shot, he's very happy to dish it off and let them
Absolutely.
take the easy shot.
Well, the person he's mostly compared to is Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was going to shoot the ball no matter what. You could put three people on him, he would have made it happen,
Yeah.
or made an attempt at it. So, all-time great, absolutely. He's an all-time great in the league that is completely watered down, and I just don't like it. I don't watch it. I refuse
Yeah,
to
and
it,
that's
and I don't like how it got handled. Like what ruined basketball for me has been always been this AAU movement where they're like, oh, we're going to take the best six kids in this town, we're going to put them on one team, and we're going to beat the worst six kids in this town by 150 points.
right.
Does that make you better? And that's what the NBA
That's
has turned into when
yeah,
he went to Miami and he's trying to make these super teams and stuff like that. I understand you're trying to make your life easier and stuff like that, but I
sure.
mean, that's why he doesn't get the respect that Gianni gets over in Milwaukee. Milwaukee, he won a title at Milwaukee. It was on him. He was drafted by them. He grew with them,
Yeah.
and he won a title with
Yeah.
them. Had he done that with Cleveland the first time,
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Can't
I
you,
don't
you could
disagree with
not knock
you.
the guy's talent at all.
No, I think the effort sometimes can be questioned, and I don't think. And I'm not saying Jordan never
No,
took some plays off either. By the way,
oh yeah,
but I think there's a perception, and I'm not
yeah.
right or wrong. And I really don't watch enough of the NBA to feel comfortable making
One of the
any
reasons we
kind
don't watch it is
of judgment. But uh, that is one of the knocks is that hey, he'll take a night
take games
off,
off.
or yeah, and it's like
Well, I
okay.
mean, case in point, I just made this comment the other day. We were watching. Uh, it was the Saturday afternoon game, and it was on in the background at the bar we were at, and he wasn't playing. And he showed up, and he walked to the bench, and he's wearing this like fluorescent lime green snow cap. And you're like, dude, we all know who you are. You don't need to be wearing that. It's like one of those things. Is he wearing that to be seen? Like, oh, I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be this or that. And
Yeah,
then he shows up with something like that where everybody in the arena can be like, oh, that's LeBron James down there. I
yeah.
knew that is. But and then the load stuff that they do in the NBA where they're giving guys like every fifth game off. I mean, that's where
Well,
I get a little issue with. Like, this is what they weren't doing before.
it is interesting, and I just think it's part of the change, and I think it's going to rub guys like you and me
Of course.
wrong. But I don't know that it necessarily is wrong.
How many more years did he get? Yeah.
Yeah, and when you look at you know college football, there are not a lot of and we've talked about it. I think one of the reasons that Penn State is appealing to running backs right now is
Yeah.
that you have that stable. I mean, there was a
Yes.
time, and again, this is going to come across that I'm knocking the current generation, and I'm
Yeah.
not. In a lot of ways, I give them credit because I think it is
Smart.
it's in some ways smart, but in some ways it's also unselfish, right? Like you are okay if it is for the better of the team, giving some of your playing time what used to think of as I want to be the featured back. I want to get the ball 20 to 25
Correct.
times. And I think part of it is unselfishness and part of it is selfishness. I'm looking to preserve myself for the
Sure.
opportunity in the NFL. But we're even seeing it, and again, it's not a knock, it's just an observation. We're seeing it in college wrestling. There's a lot of
You're right.
guys in Penn
Good
State.
point.
Aaron Brooks is taking a lot of the second matches off on the weekend. Roman Bravo Young's a little. I mean, he's also doing that with RBY. It's he's also coming back for an extra year of eligibility and has his sights set on making one run at the world team in the World Championships, one run at the Olympics, and then the plan is anyway to get into MMA. But across the board, you're seeing more. I just did an interview with Cody Sanderson, and we were just talking about kind of setting up schedules and stuff. And one of the things that he said has changed is that it used to be guys were looking to get 35 to 40 matches in the season, and you try to schedule so you got now those opportunities. Now these guys are like, yeah, I want to get like 15 to 20
Yeah.
before nationals. Maybe
Now,
25.
when those guys are wrestling 40 and 50 matches, how hard were they working in the room?
Yeah, well,
Were
I
they
mean
wrestling against guys who are just as talented or more talented or right below them? You know what
yeah,
I
I mean that's. But I mean, this is across the board in the country. You're seeing. I mean, there's not that push to. It's more about getting some quality matches
Gotcha.
than it is just
And I
wrapping
have to
up
say this, by the way,
a
I'm
bunch of
thinking about
W's.
this.
Yep.
Joe Paterno gave our whole offensive line, the 4 starters, spring practice off in 1994. 5.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking about it. I guess he was starting to do it because it's like, what were we going to learn in the spring practice? He needed to get ready for the next year when we were done.
Right. Well, and you see it. I mean, you've seen it all the time in the NFL where a veteran will be
That's
given
the other thing. Yes, so that's the thing.
preseason off or at least limited.
We see sports. I see sports as a football thing. Where if you're in the NFL and you're not playing your best players or you're not playing full speed, you get the living shit beat out of you and hurt or injured, and your team gets smoked.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't. I think that's the issue that most of us have is that they play a sport where they can have their best players take a night off and it doesn't matter. You got 17 games in the NFL. Those games are important when win, lose, or draw. You know what I mean? Like, and then you got 82 basketball games where if you can give your best players 5, 6, 10 games off and where they're not using themselves, but you can still be competitive, maybe win one or two of them, but those games don't matter. Every football game matters, in my opinion. And then you have to have your best guys out there, your best guys playing full speed. I think that might be something that people have an issue with the NBA and LeBron and those type of guys.
Yeah, and there is. I mean, again, I don't know what you do about it. And there's been a lot of talk, but not much action. And I'm not sure that there can be action in terms of. All right, yeah, that's true. You can take a night or two off, and it's not a big deal for the player. But what about the young kid who gets to go to one NBA game every 10
True.
years and he's going because he loves LeBron James
Yes.
and you get there that
Yep.
night and oh no, LeBron's a scratch. And and again, you see it with Major League Baseball. I
Correct.
mean, this is across the board. And sometimes there's injury. I mean, so
Sure.
all of that. But same thing. I was thinking about it when Cody was saying that about wrestling. It's like, well, yeah, but man, if you came to like if you came to Rec Hall Saturday or this past Sunday because Max Dean is your favorite wrestler and you wanted to see him wrestle, he goes out there and gets his hand raised, you don't get to see him compete at all, right? Like you
Yep.
leave a little bit
Correct.
bummed.
I agree.
And again, I don't know. There's been a lot of discussion on how to address that, but I don't know that you can. I mean, you can't force a player or expect a major league baseball player to play 162 games. You
Correct.
can't, and right on down the line. And again, a sport like football or wrestling, there's injuries that are occurring all the time too, both serious and just ones that you want to be take a little precaution with. And so I get it. Fans are disappointed, but and there's big money involved. I mean, I understand all of that. I just don't know at the end of the day, you're trying to put out a championship product, right? Like that's what anybody that's in competitive sports, that's what you're trying to achieve is a championship. And if you think getting a couple of nights off here and there can help you achieve that goal,
No
then
doubt
you're going
about
to
it.
do that without giving it a
I
second
don't think they're going
thought.
to worry about you going to the Atlanta Hawks and playing against them and
Yeah,
see,
I do think I will say as Penn State wrestling, it does feel like once again, knock on wood that they get through the Clarion match okay health wise, but boy, it sure
you're a Clarion
feels.
fan.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like uh, once again things are rounding into form at the right time of the year. I mean, Alex Facundo has just jumped a couple of levels, I think, over the last couple of months. Shane Van Ness, uh, you can just see the improvement in his wrestling right now. Levi Haynes is coming on like gangbusters right now. When you look at some of the comparative results, again, I think Levi's right there in the mix for a national title. Now, nothing guaranteed, obviously, by any stretch. I think he's one of probably 4 or 5 that's capable of winning it, but he's one of them. And I think he's, uh, you know, I think the improvement that he can make between now and Big Tens is appreciably more than what most of those established guys at the top of the rankings right now can make. Not to say that they won't improve. I think he's a guy that right now is really figuring some things out, and with the coaching staff's help, again, can take another jump in level between now and the postseason still. And I think where he's at right now has him again right in the mix. Same thing with Facundo and Van Ness too. To be honest with you, I think Van Ness. It's just a matter of him going out and believing that. Like I think Facundo believes it now. I think
Correct.
Levi believes it. Uh, I think Van Ness is starting to realize, oh yeah, you know what? If I go out and wrestle the way I'm capable of, I could be the one that comes out on top here too. But I do think this is going to be for Penn State, but I just think for college wrestling, this is going to be a really fun postseason, both with the
That's my
conference
question. Is this
tournaments
going
and
to be
the
the best you
NCAA
think you've ever going to
championships.
see or
Yeah,
have seen?
it's going to be interesting because you have to see it play out before you can make that type of pronouncement because there have been some really good, especially NCAA finals, but
Yeah.
NCAA tournaments. And I just want to see kind of how everything plays out. But I think it has the potential
Good.
to be about as exciting of a tournament. And I think especially like from the quarterfinals in, and really even from the second round in, at a few of the weight classes. Um, I mean, it feels like Spencer Lee is a virtual lock at 125, and that Pat Glory is the very likely opponent for him. It feels like a virtual lock that RBY and Dayton Fix are going to meet again for the championship at 133. But after that, there's not a whole lot there that I would say you feel like it's a lock. I mean, Carter obviously is a pretty good bet to get to the finals, but I'm telling you, there's three or four guys there. Like, I don't think that's a certainty.
Brooks,
Uh, the
same
way
thing.
Brooks is wrestling, I mean, in my mind, he's a virtual certainty, but I mean, he lost to the fourth ranked guy in the country, so he'd have to, potentially meet him in the
Huh?
semifinals, depending on how things play out. So you can't really. But a lot of the way, to me, I think 141's really interesting. I think 149, 157, and 165 are just going to be wild shows, and certainly from the quarterfinals in, I think fans are going to be on the edge of their seat. And I think the same at 97. And then I think about 74 and 84, probably more of the semifinals in where you're like, yeah, I could see some funky stuff happening. And then kind of same thing at heavyweight. I think it's more. There'll be a couple of good quarterfinals, but I think the semifinals are where it's going to be like, all right, let's see who's actually bringing it here when it matters most in March. I'm excited. I think it's going to be a
I cannot
fun
wait.
tournament.
You, who surprised you the most this year for Penn State? There's been a couple surprises.
Yeah,
Not really
it
surprises, but
yeah,
expect like
it's hard. Van Ness was further ahead out of the gate than I was anticipating, but I really thought by this time of the year he'd be kind of where he is. I think he's ranked lower. He's 13th in the
yep.
Intermat rankings. I think he's a top 8 guy, but that is a loaded weight class. I mean, it's kind of I feel about him kind of like I did with both Molinaro and Roman in their freshman season, where if you can get on the podium, uh, that's a heck
For
of an
them.
achievement and may very well bode well for the potential for national titles down the road. Um, Bo Bartlett, I think, is the guy that has come on here these last couple of weeks that I think you're seeing some leaps, maybe an unexpected time of his career. I'm really curious to kind of see how that translates into the postseason here, but I think he's a guy. I mean, he's obviously ranked fifth, so he's not necessarily sneaking up on people, but I think he could pull a couple of surprises in the postseason, both the Big Tens and Nationals. So
And Levi.
we'll see. Yeah, I mean Levi, we you knew the type of
Okay.
talent that he
Okay.
had.
So he wasn't really.
The surprise may be that they pulled the red shirt. I think when you saw the way he was coming on, late December, early January, there it was again one of those situations where you can't keep it down like that off the mat. You just not when you are looking to score as many points as you can in the postseason. We will be back on Thursday with
Very
yet
interesting.
another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead
Go
show here
Lions.
at Quaker Steak and Lube. Until then, be good and be safe.